Welcome to Restore with 4, Moving Out of Stress and Pain. I'm Shivani Jane, and I'm here at Somatic Sanctuary's virtual classroom, offering somatic awareness based on the Feldenkrais method. So to get started, I'm going to ask you to find a good chair that has 4 legs, a firm seat, perhaps a straight back, and no arms. And it can also be really helpful to have a folded blanket or a folded towel. Some of these seats are very wide, and you may find that it's more comfortable to have something propped just under your pelvis and back behind your buttocks and the back of the seat. And if you have shorter legs, it could be good to put the folded blanket or towel under your feet to raise the floor. If you have long legs, place it under your seat. And ideally, your hips are higher than your knees. So that's a lot of conversation about the setup, but you know, our comfort is really the priority in all of these lessons. We're moving towards pleasure. So from this dynamic sitting position, you'll be able to really establish 4 points of contact that allow you to come to a place of stability and move with ease. So today we're going to focus on awareness of the midline and reaching towards the sky. And before we get started, I do want to bring us all into a dynamic seated position. So can invite you to press your chair away from a table or desk if it's in front of anything. Give yourself some space. And then bring your elbows down onto your thighs, slide them close to your knees. So your elbows and forearms are going to lean into your thighs, and your head can start to dip down towards the floor. And you're going to take your head forward and down. As you take your head forward, notice how you start to elongate through your back, and your pelvis will move backwards. Head is moving forward, pelvis moves backward. This is an equal and opposite response. And then as you take your head farther down towards the floor, as if you are looking at something between your legs, you're going to find that your pelvis will start to float up from the seat. And just let it float up a little bit. And from that deep squat, sit yourself back down into your chair. And just notice if you didn't get a wider foundation and a clearer contact through your sitting bones. We call these the feet at your seat. You're welcome to close your eyes and just take a moment to really allow yourself to access that contact, allowing your skeleton to lean in and sensing the contact through the floor, and just sensing the way in which the room supports you, the space that you're in. And then notice the way in which your breath is moving. How is your breath breathing you today? Sensing and feeling the places that are available to receive the breath. Sensing the way in which the breath is flowing out. Nothing you need to do here, just noticing. And then also maybe coming to notice, again, how you're taking the support. Perhaps your shoulders would be a little more comfortable if you rolled them back and aligned them with your hips. So often throughout the day, we're doing things that have us in a forward fold, whether it be your dishes or typing away at your computer. Just accentuating that backward roll through the shoulders. Your shoulders soften. And then if you're finding that your head's still a little forward, you can draw it back, aligning your head with your spine. And just notice that that didn't create a little more space within you. And this invitation to receive the support Allow your skeleton to um, create that within you, and allow your breath to be buoyant and also support that sense of ease. And with your awareness, come to the top of your head. If you're a kinesthetic person, you're welcome to bring your fingers to that. Just the crown of your head. What we're going to do, either with our hands and fingers or with our minds, we're going to draw a line just from the crown of your head down between your brows, along the bridge of your nose, dividing your right side and left side in half. So dividing your lips and your chin, coming to that space where your clavicle bones meet, continuing to imagine or draw that line down through your sternum and down through your navel. Again, just dividing yourself into two halves. This imaginary line coming all the way through your pubic bone and then dropping that line down to the space between your heels. Lovely. Just notice how that is there to differentiate the right and the left. And let's go ahead and continue with this idea of drawing a midline down the back side. So bringing your awareness to the crown of your head, go ahead and drop that plumb line down to divide the back of your head in half and to come into the spinous process of your vertebrae, coming through the neck and between your shoulder blades, down your spine, to divide your sacrum into two halves, and to continue to drop that plumb line down to the space between your heels. So with this awareness of the right and left and this midline that has divided you into two parts, can you sense any differences in the two sides? Noting if one side is heavier or lighter, you're leaning more into one side. Noticing if one side is feeling shorter or longer. And even sensing if there's more breath moving through one side or the other. And then see if it's possible to breathe along your midline, expanding between the space that's not right and not left. Just listening into where that's alive for you and where it's not clear. And then notice how your arms and your hands are resting. You can place your hands on the tops of your thighs to rest there with your palms facing upward. And then can you sense if there's one arm that feels more available for moving? It could be your dominant hand, and it may not be. Just get a sense of what side you'd like to begin the movement with, and then bring that hand and just below your belly button, and let your hand become a nest there, as if you were holding an apple. You can imagine a golden apple or a red apple just nestled in your palm, resting just below your navel. This space is considered to be the hara in many traditions. It's an energy center. So feel how it is just to bring your awareness to this space with your hand resting there and this felt sense awareness an imaginary apple resting in your palm. And then again, with your eyes closed, I'm going to invite you to bring that apple up along your midline. Pass through the center of your sternum, your heart space, your hand, coming in front of your face, coming toward your eyes, between your eyes, to move above your head. You're taking your hand above your head and just imagine yourself reaching back into an apple tree to place that apple back in the tree and feel another one just kind of magically come into your hand, and you'll once again follow that pathway down your midline. Let your breath be natural, and movement can be quite a meditation. So let yourself be with this experience of bringing this apple back to that space below your navel. And then just pause, let your hand rest wherever you'd like. Just getting a sense of how that experience landed in you. And then when you feel ready, open your eyes and bring your hand back to that same position below your navel, imagining an apple resting in your palm. And then continue on up that same pathway along your midline to bring your hand in front of your heart. And slowly bringing it to come in front of your face, passing in front of your lips and your nose. Your eyes are open, so watch that apple. It's the same hand. Same hand you were working with before. Watching your hand as your hand moves above your head into towards the sky. You don't have to reach as far as you can, but just what feels available. And then taking another apple and bringing it back down in the same pathway. If you've been sitting all day, this can just feel like the most divine movement of rediscovering extension through your spine. And imagining that juicy apple as it passes through your face and back down. Lovely. Let your hand come back to rest on your lap. And then if you're not at the edge of the chair, I'm just going to invite you to come a little closer to the edge of the chair. And let's just play with a pelvic roll. So you're going to roll yourself forward and roll yourself back. Listen to how the points of pressure change through your sitting bones, and listen to what happens along your backside into the shape of your back as you roll forward and as you roll back, and just feel how your pelvis can be the engine, just as if it was hinging around your hips like a rolling pin. And your spine can be totally in response to this. So if you've got any efforting through your neck, your shoulders, or your lower back, let that go. Just see how you can soften with the movement. And the next time you roll forward, allow yourself to fill your lower abdomen with breath and see if the breath can spill into your pelvis, just grounding your sitting bones. And allowing your spine to naturally lengthen. Your head will come a little taller. Lovely. And exhale, rolling back, drawing your navel in and letting your shoulders round. And allowing that kind of sense of closing in. So your hips and your shoulders come together. And they'll come apart as you roll forward. Gorgeous. Moving with the breath. And then if you'd like, go a little quicker and lighter and just give yourself that lovely massage like feeling as you go quicker and lighter, and just allow that, the lightness and the faster motion to break up any tension. So your jaw can be softened, face can soften, your chest can soften. Excellent. And then let yourself slow down again and roll onto your sitting bones. Find that most centered point, which allows your pelvis to open up. And then return with the same hand coming just below your navel, and one more pass coming along your midline, taking your hand from your hara to above your head, allowing your breath to be integrated into this movement. Noticing if your hand is along the midline or if it's deviated off to the side. Noticing where your hand starts to turn through space. At what point is it easier to rotate in order to reach up and above you? So you're just feeling, and in that rotation, are you rotating internally or externally? And you're welcome, as you have your hand above you, to explore that, a gentle rotation through the arm. And then taking your hand back down, as if you picked another apple, and bringing it along your midline. Your eyes again staying in connection with your hand. And with all of us, there's places where we deviate from the midline. There's places where we lose that connection, that eye-hand connection. And this is part of why we return to these simple movements to restore some of the connections that are just so basic. So take a moment and just rest. Notice how that felt for you. It can be very satisfying to kind of harvest the way in which a movement sequence leaves a kind of echoing taste in your mouth or feeling in yourself. So let's explore the other side, and bring that hand just in front of your navel. And again, see if you can't just think about the details of what it would feel like to have the weight of an apple resting in your palm, and how would you soften your fingers to wrap around that. So using every opportunity here to, first of all, experience the pleasure of the movement. And secondly, to allow yourself to soften, really soften and relax into it. Reduce any effort. So bringing your hand from your hara towards your heart. Your heart towards your mouth, your nose. And to the space between your eyes and above your head. Seeing how far this arm and hand can reach without efforting. Noticing if there's any way in which your pelvis can participate to make the movement lighter. Reaching up and into the tree to return the imaginary apple and to allow another one to come into your hand. And bringing it back down in your own timing. Return to a position in which your hand can rest just in front of your navel or just below. So if it's interesting to you, I'm going to invite you to close your eyes and just imagine the movement. You've had one pass to get a sense of it. So gather those details, how this side is moving through space, and how you're connecting to this imaginary midline that extends from your hara to the space above your head. As you're imagining the movement, feeling, sensing in yourself where your hand and your arm would start to rotate. Place the apple back into the tree, and at what point does the hand and your arm rotate to bring the apple to your lips, to your mouth? In every action, we have an opportunity to get longer, and in every movement, there's a spiraling component. And this is something that we can lose sight of in our, just as a result of our day-to-day activities that can be so linear, and because we've been conditioned to be such a forward-moving and forward-directed society. So again, the lessons give you this opportunity to explore dimensions and nuances that perhaps you're missing throughout the day and as you go about your daily activities. But, when you feel like you've gotten a good image of the movement in your mind's eye, go ahead and return to the movement. Your hand at your hara and bringing it along your midline and just sensing, playing with the experience, sensing how you can do it different, or just staying connected to the visual element as your eyes watch your hand move above your head and return to that space just below your navel. Lovely. And then once you've returned, you can pause, and then it may be fun just to play, maybe going at a little faster tempo, taking one hand up, maybe not even going as far as you can, maybe taking it halfway up, halfway down, just like seeing what wants to organically emerge here, playing with the rotations, bringing the hand to the heart, the mouth, your nose, yawning, you could maybe even integrate a little bit of a stretch. Lovely. And again, just feel free to alternate the arms in your hands. Still playing with this idea of your eyes being connected to the movement of your hands. As your eyes and hands move through space. It's like a seamless experience. Lovely. And listen to how the breath can influence the movement. Again, looking for the action to be pleasurable, to be light. Feel the buoyancy through your breath and feel the support through your pelvis. Remember that rolling movement that we had earlier. So you're welcome to play with that. Again, there's just numerous variations. You can bring your hands together as you roll the pelvis forward and back. Fingertips touching, elbows folding and unfolding, inward and outward. Lead and still maintaining this sense of the midline and pivoting off the midline. Yes, you can interlace the fingers and just, again, finding how you can experience cloud hands. We use our hands so much. It's just really nice to give them an opportunity to not only move towards the sky, but to embody that element, sky. Gorgeous. And then go ahead and just close your eyes and settle back and just again feel the lasting impressions, that last phase of movement. Notice how the exploration has left you feeling, and a sense of how that imaginary midline that divides your two sides is coming along. That's more clear to you, or has it in some way kind of merged and dissolved? Can you sense the space between the right and the left that's not either right or left? Not right, not left. Midline that extends through you. And how is it to breathe into that midline, to allow it to expand with your breath? In the beginning of the lesson, we delineated it along the front side and the back side. So I'm curious if one side is more clear than the other. Front side, back side, right side, left side. We also were tending to the differences and the similarities of those two. Notice how that's come along. And then see if you can bring your breath once again into the midline, expanding the space between your right side and your left side. Sensing that space that's not left and not right. Using your breath to unify. And of course, sometimes these things can feel a little vague, and that's okay if you're not getting it or landing it with total clarity. You know, most of us are still working with the impressions of conditioning that have taught us to see things in black and white, dominant and non-dominant. So to come to it, this non-dualistic perception within yourself can take a little time. So you're welcome to return to any of the elements of this lesson that have served you. And I thank you for joining me today with our Restore at 4, a beautiful lesson.